proving herself to be the bane of Fani Willis's existence, guys. In fact, the brave attorney appeared on The Source with Caitlin Collins to discuss her continuing push to remove Fani Willis from leading a case against Donald Trump over alleged election interference during the 2020 election. Now, in this particular CNN interview, Ashleigh Merchant, she shared her plans for appealing her case against Fani Willis and exactly why she expects a different outcome this time around. So essentially, she explained how Judge Scott McAfee, he applied the wrong standard and that they showed more than enough to show an appearance of impropriety. She also brought up the fact that Nathan Wade, Fani Willis's lover, has been paid more than any prosecutor in American history, guys. She also made a very good point when she brought up Nathan Wade's constant inconsistencies in his testimony. The Court of Appeals is going to see that. Now, of course, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis was really hoping to kind of bring former President Donald Trump to trial before November's election. However, with the recent court ruling regarding her controversial connection with a special prosecutor who we all know quite well, it looks increasingly unlikely that this is going to happen anytime soon. In fact, a decision by Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee basically not to disqualify her from the case. That decision is now on appeal. Now, with that particular hearing slated for October, that definitely puts a big delay on things. But it gets even worse than that, guys. Well, worse for Fani Willis. But until then, Judge Scott McAfee, he's on hold from taking any kind of action on this particular case involving election-related accusations against Trump, including deciding how recent Supreme Court rulings on presidential immunity and obstruction of official proceedings could play into things. So, translation, they pretty much just put Donald Trump's Georgia trial on ice. And for good reason, too, guys. Have you guys heard the recent news about Fani Willis and Nathan Wade? Okay, so Georgia lawyer Nathan Wade has just put his mansion in Marietta on the market for $700,000. Now, Wade, the controversial figure who served very shortly as the special prosecutor on the Trump case, he listed his sprawling 7-bedroom, 5-bathroom estate in Marietta just last May 23rd. Suspiciously enough, though, this move comes right after he tried to cut down alimony payments during his ongoing divorce with his estranged wife, Jocelyn Wade. Now, guys, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support, and thank you as always for sharing this video. We got a lot of love in the comments already. What's up? The Awakened. We got Kyle Matthews, Robert Downing, Fed Up Patriot, Scott Hill, A. Avery, What's Good, British Gray, Margaret Owens. Awesome. So as for D.A. Willis, they have just found out that a former Atlanta city attorney who was sentenced to 7 years in prison over a massive $15 million pandemic loan fraud, $15 million in pandemic loan fraud. That's a lot of money. Anyway, this particular person donated to Fani Willis's campaign after applying for the government handouts. Does this sound suspicious to anybody? Meanwhile, Fulton County's district attorney Fani Willis, now caught up in her own controversies, has said that she will refuse to testify before the state Senate, which is probing her alleged mishandling of taxpayer money. She insists that she's sticking to her guns despite this growing scrutiny. Well, we're sticking to ours as well as we look into this whole rabbit hole that Ashleigh Merchant and other Trump allies have uncovered in this whole basically Fulton County saga. So, but first, before we do that, here's a little bit of Fani Willis's recent speech with, and of course, Fox News contributor Tyrus breaking it down for us. Take a listen.
Others have found ire with the media for not though checking those who unfairly attack African American women. But that same media will jump at the morsel of a chance to tear a sister down. While they over there running their mouth I'm over here paying them no mind, thriving, ambitious, winning.
To you, sir.
Listen, if you're not doing nothing, there's no reason to speak. She doesn't need to have these meetings.
talks
She's
a
doing
lot.
her job, yeah. And it's just hilarious how it's always the system is after me, not your inappropriate behaviors that got you in this, not some of your court proceedings and expenditures and whatnot. No, it's the system. It's always very convenient, and that speech to me just drips of just narcissism and trying to make excuses for bad performance.
Wow. Wow, guys. Now you heard her, Fani Willis, saying that she's thriving in what the Fox News contributor described as a very narcissistic speech. And she says she's paying them no mind, but there she stands paying them every bit of mind. Like, if this really wasn't bothering her, she wouldn't have said nothing. You know what I'm saying? And then she, again, pulls the race card, talking about how they're always trying to tear sister down. It's like, come on, guys. Now, I don't know about you guys, but, some people will call that, that display of Fani Willis basically a walking, talking contradiction. But what do y'all think about that? Now, I didn't include the part where I didn't include as much of the part where she kind of brought up the race card again, because too many people, they're already saying that, being trash at a job, it knows no race. And even black people are saying that they're sick of Fani Willis and her race card being pulled out basically every time it's time for her to pull her hand. So, but for a lot of Americans, she's just plain corrupt, and nobody wants to claim her at this point. But what do y'all think? Now, here we have a defense attorney, Ashleigh Merchant. She's leading the effort to remove Fani Willis from the Georgia election case. And in a recent CNN interview, she let Fani Willis's ex-lover, Nathan Wade, she let him have it, basically calling out all of his inconsistencies. And this was a constant occurrence. It wasn't like once or twice, constant inconsistencies during his testimony about his relationships timeline, guys. I mean, this was during an interview on CNN for The Source with Caitlin Collins. They targeted They talked about how Ashleigh Merchant's push to get Fani Willis off of a big case against Donald Trump over alleged election interference during the 2020 election. But during this particular conversation, Collins was curious about what Merchant's strategy would be at the appeals court. Now, especially after a setback at the previous hearing. Well, Merchant, she felt very optimistic here, is explaining now how they think Judge Scott McAfee applied the wrong standard when it came to letting Fani Willis continue with this case and let Nathan Wade go. So according to Merchant, they showed more than enough to show an appearance of impropriety. She even says that they actually showed a conflict as well. So it just kind of goes much further than that. But what really kind of grinds my gears here, guys, is how Nathan Wade has been paid more than any prosecutor in American history. She also brought up the way Nathan Wade was all evasive in his testimony about the relationship timeline. And as attorney Merchant kind of pointed out, it's a very simple question. When did this relationship start? This is not really that tough of a thing to remember. Like, when you started having an extramarital affair with your boss, that's probably not something that's that hard to forget or that hard to remember. You know what I mean? It's probably harder to forget than it is to remember. And, these documents, it proves everything. Constant inconsistencies. This is what they're talking about in this case here. And Merchant, she thinks that the Court of Appeals is going to see that and ultimately decide to throw Fani Willis out of this case. Now, if you guys haven't already, definitely take a second, hit the like button for the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I totally appreciate you guys. I see you guys all fired up in the comments. We got Catalia in the house, Roadside Garage, Keenan Ripon. What is up, everyone? Happy Father's Day. Totally appreciate the love from all of you guys. All right, so I even saw somebody in here from Australia. What is up? Guadalupe Rubino, what's good? But yeah, so let us just take a look here. So the dialogue kind of took a turn when Caitlin Collins, she started questioning the actual relevance of Fani Willis and Wade's affair to the Trump case. But Merchant didn't miss a beat. She doesn't. I mean, Merchant, she is sharp as a tack. Let me tell you guys. But I like what she said here. So let me just kind of read it to you guys. It's always relevant. Any conduct that undermines the American public's view of the justice system, anything that undermines the legal system is always going to be relevant. It's no different than if we had a police officer who did a racially biased stop and then we challenged it and we filed a motion to suppress. We're not challenging whether or not the person had drugs that they found in the car. We're challenging the police officer's conduct. Now, if the police break the law, then their evidence is thrown out. If the prosecutor breaks the law, then they're not able to continue to prosecute the case. That is always relevant. Anything that undermines the justice system is always relevant. Now, what do you guys think about that? I mean, Ashleigh Merchant, she is sharp. Like, would you want, and this is a question for you guys, would you want Ashleigh Merchant defending you in court? I mean, she is definitely making a lot of sense here, guys. And she went on to say that if it hadn't been illegal, they would have told the Fulton County commissioner. They kept it a secret because it is illegal and it is actually a federal offense to have honest services fraud. Or, as my uncle put it, somebody got laid, somebody got paid, but it's the taxpayers that got played. But, you know, and this is why, as the interview kind of wrapped up, Merchant stood her ground in the very serious, on the serious implications of the ethical breaches, which had already led to Nathan Wade's resignation and might even lead to Fani Willis's resignation, or possibly just simply being sidelined from the case. Quick shout out and thank you to Freedom for the $5 super chat. Happy Friday, Mr. Yates. If you are married and have God's, happy Father's Day, Mr. Yates. If you're married and have God's blessing of children, which I do, thank you so much. Love your videos and your freedom of speech and truth. I'm a dad. Well, happy Father's Day back to you too, Freedom. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers in here on this live list right now. Totally appreciate the love, you guys. Thank you so much. So District Attorney Fani Willis, she was really kind of hoping to bring former President Donald Trump to trial before the November election, but that is not looking like it's going to happen. In fact, it's looking less and less likely by the day. Although Judge Scott McAfee didn't kick off the case, he didn't kick her off the case. She's still around technically, but she's now kind of tied up in appeals and won't really be seeing any action until a hearing in early October. So no real big decisions can be made about the case this summer, including how recent Supreme Court rulings on presidential immunity and obstruction could possibly impact it. But legal experts are now saying that the scandal could prove disastrous for the case. So Clark D. Cunningham, he's an expert in legal ethics and a law professor at Georgia State University, told the New York Times that Willis just stabbed the case right in the heart. You got John Malcolm. He's a former federal prosecutor. He pretty much echoed the same sentiment, pointing out that the appeals court and their recent order really highlights serious and substantial issues like the payments made to Nathan Wade and her relationship with him, and her ill-advised speech from a church pulpit, essentially calling the defendants racists. This is a move that Judge McAfee later criticized in his court order. But Malcolm also brought up the fact that the court believes it would be fundamentally unfair to put the defendants to the time and the expense of litigating pretrial issues before Judge McAfee when there's a pretty significant reasonable possibility, if not a likelihood, that Fani Willis and Fulton County's district attorney's office will be completely disqualified from continuing with this case. Now, if this were to happen, basically the case would likely be turned over to another prosecutor who may ultimately decide to just proceed or just drop the whole thing altogether. Now, according to Anthony Michael Crease, he's another professor he's a law professor at Georgia State. If Donald Trump gets reelected, this you know, if now I know it's a big if, but the if is actually becoming more and more likely by the day. If Donald Trump gets reelected this November, we probably won't even see a trial until 2029 at the earliest. So go figure. Nathan Wade, Fani Willis, they're not helping their case either with this recent headline about them. Did you guys hear about this one? So Nathan Wade, he just put his Marietta mansion on the market for $700,000, but the listing has raised a lot of eyebrows, as it came just days after he filed in courts to slash alimony payments to his estranged wife, Jocelyn Wade, who he is trying to resolve his divorce from. Now, one photo from the listing kind of shows half the closet filled with Nathan Wade's clothes. Meanwhile, the other half is pretty bare and empty. Presumably, at one point, maybe it held Jocelyn Wade's clothes. But Jocelyn was pretty steamed when she discovered Nathan Wade had pocketed over $53,000 in salary just days before pleading poverty to the court amid their long and increasingly heated divorce battle. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you just got $53,000, can you really qualify for living in poverty? Anyway, her attorney, Andre Hastings, was equally fierce in court documents last month, calling Wade's plea to cut down his payments deceitful. Now, this came after he had already raked in over $650,000 from the Fulton County DA's office before being ousted from the case. Now, of course, things went south for Wade after his affair with Willis hit the headlines. The scandal not only cost him his job on the Trump case, but it also kind of dragged him into a financial and legal mess. He stepped down as the special prosecutor in the high-profile election fraud case on March 15th after the judge gave him an ultimatum. Willis stays, Wade goes. That was the ultimatum. Just a few weeks later, Nathan Wade was back in court trying to reduce his alimony payments and child support payments, basically blaming his sudden drop in income on losing his $250 per hour gig at the DA's office. So Willis, on the other hand, doesn't seem to be having any trouble raising money for her campaign, though. The only concern is kind of like where that money is actually coming from. Because just recently they found out that a former Atlanta city attorney who was sentenced to 7 years in prison over a massive $15 million pandemic loan fraud donated to Trump prosecutor Fani Willis's campaign after applying for the government handouts. Meaning, Shalitha Robinson, 62 years old, who used some of her ill-gotten windfall for lavish purchases, including a big, massive 10-carat diamond ring on her panky. Rolls Royce also donated $1,000 to Fani Willis's Democratic primary election campaign right around the same time she got the massive payouts from the PPP, aka the Paycheck Protection Program. I mean, you know what they say about the company you keep and whose pocket you're in. You know what I'm saying? So I've always been told, follow the money. Fed Up Patriot, thank you so much for the $10 super chat this evening. Happy to see Catalia back. Everyone was missing you, amiga. It had been a couple of days, and I was like, okay, am I just not seeing her in the comments, or is she not here? So I appreciate you noticing who was in the room, and her presence was definitely missed. So I totally appreciate you, Fed Up Patriot, and of course I appreciate Catalia. But maybe that's where Fani Willis is getting all her bravado from. You know what I'm saying? Because just recently, Fani Willis has announced that she rejects the rule of law. I know, it's Fani Willis, but she will refuse to testify before the state Senate as it investigates her alleged malfeasance with taxpayer money. Now, according to the Fulton County DA, she will not appear to anything that is unlawful, and she has not broken the law in any way. But if Willis keeps refusing and dodges the subpoena that's almost surely forthcoming, she will be breaking the law. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And again, her refusal to testify also says something, doesn't it? I mean, why would somebody in her position refuse even to testify before a legislative hearing? Maybe she has something to hide. Or is it because she's afraid of facing abusive procedural treatment due to nasty partisan politics? Now, sure sounds familiar. Isn't that what many are saying, including Fani Willis herself, that are doing to former President Donald Trump? I don't know, guys. I don't know. I think we're about to bust this case wide open any day now. But what do you guys think about Ashleigh Merchant's moves or the controversy surrounding Fani Willis? Hit me up in the comments, guys. But hey, if you haven't already, make sure to check out our video about Ashleigh Merchant, where she schooled another Fulton County justice official. I left a link for that one in the description down below this video. I'll also try to leave maybe like one of those in-screen videos so you can easily click on that one after this one. But yeah, guys, wild stuff, and it keeps getting wilder. Let's see, a lot of happy Father's Day love in the comments. Sam said, after these guys went to the White House, I think they're being protected. You could be right. You could totally be right. Thank you, Hippie. Happy Father's Day. Thank you so much. Let's see. Carrie Smith says, free Palestine. Let's see. Katalia says, I was training at the gym and missed 1 or 2 lives. It's nice to be missed. Oh, for sure, for sure. Let's see. I never miss a training day. So I totally feel you on that. Got to get that in. Got to get that session in. Actually hit legs today and a little bit of cardio. So trying to get what do they call it? Spring ready or summer ready. I forget that phrase. Anyway, but I appreciate y'all tuning in as always. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, guys.